Hey, welcome back to the channel. DIY Dad here, back out with the Ram to do a quick modification to the tailgate on this truck. Prior to getting this 2500, I had a 1500, and one of the things I liked about it was just a weird kind of silly side thing, is that the gate had a shock on it. So when you open the tailgate, it would let itself down slow as opposed to just slamming down. I forget occasionally that this truck doesn't have that. So I bought one, and we're gonna see if we can install it and add that functionality here, because right now, when you open the gate on this truck, it just drops down. So here's the shock we're going to be working with. This is a heavy duty shock from OMT, Orion Motor Tech, supposedly sized for this truck, but we'll find out if that's true in just a moment. Let's get her opened up. Okay, inside the package you're going to have the shock, as well as a couple of installation pieces and some instructions. I'll walk you through this step by step, but supposedly this is a non-drill install. All right, inside the installation kit we've got this blanking plate, couple other pieces, and this, which they're referring to as a nutsert tool, so a nut insert tool. Interesting name, we'll go with it. Very first step then is going to be able to take this, and what you're going to do is adjust it by threading this piece out so that the top of this head is about 3/4 of an inch on the stack of these washers, just like so. Okay, and then we're going to take this over to the driver's side, and that's going to get inserted right into here. And then when we tighten this, it's going to cause that to expand and lock it in place. So we'll get that inserted, which is going to take 2 hands, and then we'll thread this through. So keep this all assembled, don't separate it, but that goes in there, and then you'll be able to tighten this up. Oh, and just as a note before we continue, in case it's not obvious, this is intended to be on the driver's side only, not on the passenger side. So driver's side of the vehicle. Okay, for tightening this, what you're going to do is you're going to take this 10mm nut and you're going to run it all the way until it's snug. And then you're going to turn it 360 degrees another 9 times. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull this bolt back and cause that to mushroom out behind and get this nice and tight. So you're going to use your M5 socket to hold this immobile like that. And then with your other hand, while you're holding the socket, you'll tighten the bolt, or tighten the nut here, and that will cause it to pull and stretch out. Just be careful not to over tighten. So they say to mark the nut, go around 9 times, and then check to see if this is loose, if you can move it still. If it's loose, go another 1 to 2 times, but don't over tighten or you can strip this out. You don't want to do that. Okay, when it's snug, it should look something like this, and you can see there's absolutely no wiggle on that at all. But you'll have this all tight and this pulled out. What you can do next is loosen this and then thread this out, and this whole assembly will come off, and it's going to leave that little brass fitting inside the tailgate. So just like so, this whole thing comes out, that stays in place. Then we're going to use some of this thread locker on this bolt. I'm going to apply that to the threads, and we're going to run this in and tighten it and torque that down to 8 pounds. All right, so that's all snug down. This is a 13mm socket on our torque wrench in order to get that to 8 pounds. Now we're going to take this cable off. So there's a little captive latch you pull out, and then this will slide up. You have to kind of lift the tailgate to do it. But take this cable off, and then you're going to pull this bolt. Now to pull that, you can either use the existing torque wrench or a T45 torque on a socket or whatever to get in here, depending on how tightly this is connected on yours. But you're going to pull that out of the way, and then this cover plate is going to get installed there, and the original bolt gets run right back through there. Okay, our plate is installed like so. It's all tightened up. It's getting windy, so sorry, my mic's probably a little bit upset, but our next step is sort of optional. There's a sheet of Mylar here, which they give you to attach right along the side here, just to prevent any scratching or damage to the paint if this stuff comes loose while you're in transit and starts to rattle. It's up to you whether or not you want to install it. Kind of a good idea, but again, optional. That would just go right here along the painted surface. Okay, Okay, our tailgate cable is reattached. So now we're going to take the shock itself and you're going to attach it so that the cylinder, the gas cylinder, is up at the top, or the thicker piece is at the top. The thinner end is going to go down on the tailgate. Essentially, this just clicks on like so, and it will snap into place. It takes two hands to do it though. And then once the top is attached, you're going to pull this one down and connect it to the bottom. Now you can either do that by lifting the tailgate or by extending the shock, either way. Okay, installed should look like this. Now the last step is going to deal with this cable. So this cable in the end has something called a motion limiter. It's this piece of metal that's in the gate, and it hits against the edges of this to stop this from turning too much. Because of the shock, this can cause an issue because it will force this end to interface with the shock. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to remove this limiter. We're going to take it out of the tailgate, and then they give you this guy, which will get inserted onto the cable here to stop it from binding against the gate and kind of protect everything. So they do warn you in the instructions that this does need to be removed, or you can cause damage to the shock and the gate. To remove this, you're going to use that same T45 to pull this out, and then once the bolt's out of the way, the limiter itself can be removed by kind of using a flat-headed screwdriver and prying it out. I'll show you how that works. On the back of the cable is this little retaining nut. It's right there. You can see moving. So what you're going to do is get a screwdriver under it and kind of pry it up and get it bent enough that you can grab onto it with like a pliers and then just spin it off of here. That will allow the bolt to come free, allow you to take this off. Then the bolt can be reattached with the retaining nut without this little metal limiter in there. And then that can go back into the truck. So like so, I'm holding on to the retaining nut with the needle nose pliers, and then I can spin this to get it to release. All right, here's our cable without the motion limiter. And we'll put that retaining bolt back in. And then again, this will go right back in here. And then we're gonna measure about 3.5 inches up, and that's where this guy's gonna go. All right, so we measured about 3.5 inches up the cable. And then you're gonna use pliers like this, and you're just gonna kind of keep pushing on this to squeeze the cable into here. It's a very tight fit. It's not going to work without something like this. You just kind of like press on it and work its way up, and you'll get this to drop in place. All right, and that is all she wrote for this install, but let's test her out. So close the gate. Everything closed fine. Nothing's impeding, and all the cables sticking out or anything like that. And then moment of truth. Now have a slowly opening tailgate. Very cool. Okay, successful project, really clean install. I like it a lot. There are a few tools you're going to need that they don't provide you, so you will need a pliers, probably needle nose as well, a 10mm box wrench, I believe it was an M5 Allen key, and a screwdriver, just a flat-headed screwdriver to kind of pry that retaining nut off. Technically also a torque wrench, but 8 pounds of torque is about the equivalent to snug for most adults, so use your best judgment on that if you don't have access to a torque wrench. All right, so this being the end of a DIY dad video, I of course owe you a dad joke. So what is the best type of music to listen to while fishing? Truth is, it doesn't really matter, it just has to have a catchy tune. Right, remember with any DIY project, most important step is just to do it. It doesn't have to be perfect, and no one's going to see the flaws unless you point them out to them. Have a great day, take care, do all the YouTube-y like and subscribe things. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.